Alright guys, this time instead of writing a long blog post, we decided to record a video of Alan and I talking about our experiences, and hopefully it'll be a little more enjoyable for you guys. I think the last time that we posted a blog post, we were mentioning that we were staying in a hostel and we had to find an apartment within the 5 days that our program paid for our hostel. And speaking of finding an apartment, we experienced some frustration, to say the least. The language barrier was something that we had to deal with. We basically started off by walking around in Cabra and Lucena. Cabra at the first, because that's where we're teaching, and essentially found that there were just too many old people in Cabra. We had lunch in Cabra one of the first days that we got here, and I truly believe that 90% of the people in Cabra are between the ages of 65 and 80.
It's not a place for us.
Not a place for us. So obviously we have no choice but to teach there, because that's what we were placed. But we decided there's a town, which is where we sit right now, in called Lucena, that is a little bigger, a little more nightlife, a little more going on, that we decided to live in. And after looking at more than 15 apartments, we resorted to using a real estate agency to get the apartment because of the language barrier and the frustration that we went through. Actually had several Spaniards hang up on us because they couldn't understand us. So we ended up finding a beautiful apartment, brand new, great price, and kind of in the center of Lucena, and it ended up working out perfectly. So.
Since being in Lucena, we've had to get cell phones and internet. Cell phones, we had to do a pay-as-you-go plan because contracts have to be signed for a year-long period. And calls in Spain are very expensive. There's no such thing as an unlimited plan. So calls, on average, cost around 15 cents each minute. And that's only nationally. Internationally, I can't imagine. Internet is also very expensive. I would say on average here it costs about $70, about 60 euro. But we actually got really lucky and didn't have to pay much at all.
Yeah. We met some folks in Lucena that, one guy's from Pittsburgh, and he's teaching at the local high school in Lucena, and he has a roommate named Augustine, and Augustine was able to come by our apartment and use a program on his computer to crack our neighbor's internet. And luckily, we didn't have to pay a monthly fee for internet because of that, which saves us an enormous amount of money, not only per month but for the entire year. I'm sure that bill would have added up significantly. Speaking of Stephen, he teaches with a guy named Andy, and Andy is from England, Bristol, England, and we've been hanging out with those two guys a lot, and they seem like fun guys to get to know, and it's nice to have somebody in Lucena that we can speak English language with and hang out when we're in times of need of a familiar language.
Our schools are pretty nice. Well, our jobs are very easy.
Yes.
We work 12 hours a week. I think Steve works 13. And
just a harder worker.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, we go in there and we will talk to teachers just to improve their English. And then for my classes, I go into a class and I go to the corner, which is called my conversation corner.
Alan's conversation
corner. And the students who are brave enough to come to my conversation corner come and talk with me and explain in English what they're doing in class at the moment, and I correct their grammar and help them with their pronunciation. And but it's not bad. My school's a very big artsy school. I asked my bilingual coordinator today, and he said our school was built in the 1700s, so it's very old. and he said a lot of prominent Spanish people have attended that school when they were younger. But
yeah, both of our schedules are Monday through Thursday, so we don't work on Fridays, which is huge because that allows us to travel Friday through Sunday. And if we can do some negotiating, we could probably get a Friday through Monday trip together or something. But the schedules are very laid back. The teachers seem to be pretty laid back. It's a very enjoyable job as well as rewarding by trying to help out these kids. And obviously we're able to learn Spanish at the same time, so it's nice.
Since we've been here, we've been on 2 different trips. First trip was a spur-of-the-moment trip to Malaga, which is one of the main beach cities in southern Spain, and we have a couple friends there. But we went to Malaga on a Saturday and went to the beach. It was still warm then, and hung out on a beach called Malagueta, which you will see in our video. And it's a fun town. There's a lot of English people there because, from what I hear, that's the city that English people retire to because it's just so beautiful and tons of shopping and restaurants. So most people we saw were speaking English. So it wasn't an environment to learn Spanish, which is one of our goals, but it was definitely a very fun city.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of New Orleans. Lots of street talent. You can see in our video that there was a guy, I think towards the end of the video, there's a guy dressed up in newspaper, and there was people in costumes like that. There were people painting pictures, clowns, statues, all those kinds of things that really resembled New Orleans.
Yeah.
And then the weekend of October 8th through the 12th, we had a 5-day weekend. It was a holiday here on Monday and Tuesday. This as well was kind of a spur-of-the-moment trip because our schools neglected to let us know that we had the holidays off. Therefore, we didn't really have time to book a flight. So we got on a bus and we went down to Granada and saw a friend of mine, Reed. He's a fraternity brother of mine. He's actually from Birmingham. He spent several years in Granada studying and teaching, and this is his 2nd year teaching in Granada. And him and his roommates welcomed us down there. We spent 5 days in Granada, which was a wonderful place. It has a huge amount of Spain culture, as well as a huge amount of students and American students, as well as English students. It was very, very enjoyable. Lots of mountains, outdoor activities. We took a absolutely unbelievable hike into the surrounding mountains around Granada. You can see the pictures from our video, but it was the views and the rocks and everything were spectacular, to say the least.
One of my favorite parts of Granada was the tapas. Granada is known for its free tapas. So when you go to a tapas bar, you order any drink you want, a beer, and they give you a tapa with the beer. A tapa is just a small portion of different meals that they have, and so every beer you order, you get a different tapa. And what tradition is you order a bunch of beers and you split tapas, and that way you can go to different tapas bars and get different meals instead of having the same thing for one meal. But Reed showed us around and showed us all the good tapas bars, and was very helpful when we were in Granada.
Yeah. Thank you for your hospitality, Rito, and George and Jordy.
Yeah.
Another thing about Granada that we haven't mentioned was I think is the most visited monument in Europe. From what we were told, it's called the Alhambra, and you know a little more history about that, right?
Yeah, the Alhambra it's an old Muslim fortress, which was where the Muslim kings had their last stand against the Christian Crusaders, is what I believe it was. But afterwards Christians took it over. So the architecture is a mix of Muslim architecture and Christian architecture, and it's really a cool place. It's gigantic. It's pretty much a castle surrounded by gardens and cathedrals.
You'll see that several times in the video as well, from Granada. So
yeah, it's beautiful.
Granada also had a great nightlife. We went out to several discotecas, and it's kind of a change of pace for us because Lucena is much smaller and obviously doesn't have a university in the town. So that was nice to get a little taste of a college atmosphere. And now we're in Lucena, and we've been teaching this week. I'm not sure what our plans are this weekend yet, but we're trying to save a little money and probably going to hang around here. And I guess
until next time.
hasta luego.
Hasta luego.